course I would come. I'm dying to talk to you, Krista.
Okay.
I'm dying to talk to all of you and see you all.
Yes, and later on, Andrew, we will bring the audience in for you because you said that
Wonderful.
like the Goller review at one point when we have questions.
Please.
Listen, please make a note. So, Andrew, I'm so glad you are here. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Bless you all.
So I'm going to introduce you, and with somebody like Andrew, that's very, very difficult because to give you the first hit here, he has written over 40 books. So it's really difficult to introduce somebody like Andrew Harvey, who has done so much in his life. So I'm keeping this brief, Andrew, and then you can add if you want to add something. Shall we do this? Okay. So Andrew is, of course, well known for being the founder of the Institute for Sacred Activism. And we from Sacred Earth Activism must admit here that he was inspirational to us, mainly actually through the book The Hope. That was obviously the big book which brought sacred activism to the fore. So he is the founder of the Institute of Sacred Activism, but he's of course much more. He is a renowned mystic, an exceptional scholar, that's me, saying that a spiritual teacher, an elder, an acclaimed author of over 40 books. And I am thrilled to have you with us. And of course, he is a sacred activist. As I said, in a way, you coined the expression, didn't you? It was your
Yes.
expression, yeah, which is also, of course, a trademark. Sacred Activism is a trademark of the Institute for Sacred Activism. So, among the many books he wrote Son of Man, The Hope, Love is Everything, Turn Me to Gold, Engoldenment, plus the latest one, which we will use as a basis for the contribution today. And the latest one is Radical Regeneration. And we have entitled the talk when Andrew and I spoke with each other, How to Become Hope and Be a Co-Creator in a Mad Time. And I think mad time was tuned down, wasn't it? We could have said
Yeah,
something.
we could have said a lot more about this time, but let's go with mad. Yes.
We thought we go with mad because mad is kind of okay-ish. At least there's
Extremely difficult time. No.
a slight kind of sense of humor in mad, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Universe is laughing at
So
us.
we have to bring a different kind of madness to the madness of divine love in action.
Exactly, and we will talk about. So, so besides of writing all this book and being the founder of the Institute for Sacred Activism, a mystic, and all the things I meant, he has taught all over the world, giving more than 20 courses for the Shift Network. And he's an exceptional sacred activist. I mean, I read through all the courses you support, Andrew, and it is quite mind-blowing. So there's really, where Andrew's spirit and heart is, there is also some concrete action, and that is what makes you in my book so very, very special. And I have written here Andrew's profound wisdom and deep philosophical and spiritual insights about life, death, rebirth, and connection to all there is really shines through in his work, talks, and teachings. And so I just can repeat before we get very serious that we are really thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. And I'm thrilled to be with you. I love the work that you're doing, and my love to all of you who have given me your time today. Thank you.
So I have mentioned that I have some interference here, John. Could you sort that out? Thank you, sweets. I've said that, or mentioned that you have written over 40 books and are involved in various ways to combine the sacred or the spiritual with concrete activism. But it's really especially the newest publication, isn't it? Radical Regeneration,
Yes,
Sacred Activism and the Renewal of the World, and the profound vision behind that book, and the teachings conveyed in it, which will form the basis of what we are talking about. Yeah? Great.
that would be wonderful. Yes, because it's really a distillation. I wrote it with my great friend Carolyn Baker, who is one of the really tremendous voices for renewal in our world, someone who's faced unflinchingly the horror of the crisis, but has also constantly worked to find inner and outer solutions.
Yeah.
And we distilled everything that we have learned on our wild journey at this moment for everyone, because what Radical Regeneration really is a handbook for apocalypse. It's a handbook for this enormous death that we're going through that could be and must be the birth canal for a new humanity. So everything's in it that we know. We had a wonderful 5 years pouring ourselves out, and here it is. And I hope that you will plunge into it and use it, because it is very practical.
Yeah.
We need it to be practical at this moment. It's useful.
Be warned, it's a big book.
Yes.
But it is practical. And what I wanted to start off with when we talk about radical regeneration is that, you know, when we had a chat, we spoke about or stressed that globally we are going through a dark night of the soul. And
Yes.
no avoiding that. If we are avoid to face it, we don't face reality. And we need to go through the night of the soul collectively, as you said. We are forced, that really hit me. We are forced to go through it so that we
Yes.
birth the new. Shall we start with that? Can you talk a bit about
Oh, yes, I'd love to. And I love the word force, because nobody goes through a dark night willingly. And certainly humanity is not going through willingly this terrifying process that we're now in. Fundamentally, I believe that what's happening on the planet is that the entire human race is now going through what a very few and very holy mystics have been through in their inner life: a comprehensive, overwhelming dark night process in which all the illusions and all the institutions and all the concepts and all the dogmas that we have created our identity around are being systematically demolished and destroyed by the divine. And when you hear that from the ego, from Sam or Jonathan or Krista or Andrew ego, you are terrified. It's terrifying. But when you go into the depths of the mystical traditions, and when you understand beyond thought that what the Dark Knight has always been is a potential birth canal for a wholly new level of evolutionary power and presence and passion and compassion and commitment to life. When you really get what Rumi is saying in the poem that I'm going to quote to you, then you understand at the deepest level of your being that what we are now in is a massive evolutionary transition. A transition from a world built on tribalism, on narcissism, on materialism, on deep estrangement from nature, to a world in which we will be potentially able to embody the divine in mind, heart, soul, and body, and become humble, radiant co-creators with God of a wholly new way of being and doing everything. That's what the situation is offering us. And the poem by Rumi, which has been for me one of the touchstones of my life, I spent 40 years plunged into Rumi, being, I hope, Rumified. This poem is, I think, the key to what we're living. And I'm sure that if you really listen to it, you'll identify so many of your own feelings of pain and frustration and suffering and outrage. And you'll be guided by the poem to put them into the context that they really belong. So, the grapes of my body can only become wine after the winemaker tramples me. I surrender my body like grapes to his trampling, so my inmost heart can blaze and dance with joy. And although the grapes go on sobbing blood and screaming, I cannot bear any more agony. I cannot bear any more suffering. The trampler stuffs cotton in his ears and says, "It is I who am the master of this work. You can deny me if you want. You have every excuse. But when through my passion you reach perfection, you will never be done praising my name." So what that poem shows us is the architecture, the inner architecture of the Dark Night process. And the reason is that we cannot become wine. We cannot become a being who just flows out with passionate divine inspiration and puts that inspiration into fearless action if our full self, our narcissistic, cowering before what we imagine to be our entitled needs, isn't trampled. Grapes of our concepts and dogmas and willed activities isn't trampled by the divine, by a series of impossibly difficult situations, so that the juice in the grapes, the juice, passionate compassion, the juice of celebration of life, the juice of commitment to give everything you are for the world, for all sentient beings, for the possible birth of a new kind of human being, that juice, so that that can be extracted from us. And in the third line, what Rumi says is so amazing. He says, "I surrender my body like grapes to this trampling." One of the things that's so disheartening to me in the spiritual world is its cult of denial. If you're going to have the benefits of the dark night, if the benefits of being born onto another level of yourself, you're going to have to go through it. You're going to have to trust beyond reason that the force that's imposing this is love itself, and that love will guide you through what seems impossible suffering. I have experienced this myself. I had a 10-year dark night. I had this poem as my guide. And what I did was go into blind surrender. And over time, miracles started to happen, and a wholly new level of consciousness was installed in me and in those who I was able to help and to reach. And it was an amazing experience. It's an experience of crucifixion and resurrection. I surrender my body like grapes to his trampling, so my inmost heart can blaze and dance with joy. And that's a paradox which will become really evident to you if you follow the instructions of the great mystics. Because on the one hand, surrendering is hard, but when you do surrender, when you do begin to intuit that this process is being guided by an evolutionary intelligence far greater and far wiser than anything that we have, then something burns alive in you. A flame is lit in you of divine knowledge, divine love, and divine trust. Rumi's genius in this poem is to say to us, well, that doesn't stop the suffering. It it gives it meaning, which is wonderful, because the most terrible thing is to feel that your agony is meaningless. But it doesn't stop the suffering, because the process has its own logic and has to work very, very deeply in you and in the human race to transform it. And although the grapes go on sobbing blood and screaming, I cannot bear any more anguish. I can't take Gaza. I can't take knowing that the climate is collapsing. I can't take the fact that half the country seems to believe the mad lies of a sociopath. I can't take the vitriol and the cruelty and the horror of what I have to face every day in this massive evolutionary transformation. The trampler, knowing what you're going through, stuffed cotton in his ears. That's such an amazing image, isn't it? Because the process is a divine process. The divine knows where it could potentially lead. The divine is doing it. The divine is in the process. I am the master of this work. God, is the master of this work. And you can deny me if you want. You have every excuse. It is an atrocious transition. It's atrocious. I once went into a burn unit in the hospital because a friend of mine had been terribly burnt. And if the burns are extremely deep, and this is terrifying, but it's true, the surgeons have to operate without anesthetic, because if they didn't, they would cut too deep and kill the person. Imagine the kind of clarity and rigorous compassion you have to have as a surgeon to inflict that amount of pain on someone in order to save their lives. That will give us an image of really what's at stake in the situation that we're in, because we have, as a human race, being horribly burned by our own arrogance, our hubris, our desire to dominate nature, our insane addictions to power over, instead of the love that is the true power. And this operation that the divine is doing is one that the divine knows is incredibly painful to us. So you can deny me if you want. You have every excuse. God knows, right? The climate collapsing, fascism rising, genocide happening before us on our TV, which we can't stop, unbelievable anxiety about the economy. We all know that it could go up in smoke at any moment, and that all the structures that we've relied on, and I'm 71 and I'm relying on, I'm still trying to believe that I might have some moderate minor security for my old age, which is itself a kind of fiction that I still try and entertain despite everything. So anything is possible at this moment. Anything. We are in the age of the unthinkable.
Yeah.
You could, but then the last two lines, the last amazing two lines. And I beg you to write them in letters of diamond fire on your heart, because they will sustain you through everything. They have sustained me through everything, and they continue to. But when through my passion you reach perfection, when through the agony and rigor and awful demands of this tremendous transition, if you hang in there with gratitude, with thanksgiving, with faith, with deep, deep surrender, if you do, you'll discover what those last two lines reveal. When through my passion of God for this evolutionary transformation, you reach perfection. When you begin to understand, because you're experiencing that having died increasingly to yourself releases a wholly vibrant, completely new power of life, then you will never be done praising my name. Just as I was in that burn unit and I saw the person suffer horrendously, I could hardly imagine what they were going through. But a couple of days later, when I went to visit her, she was absolutely radiant with gratitude for the courage of the doctors who had put her through that ordeal and saved her life. So let's get real about where we are in a great evolutionary transformation. Let's get real that it is a global dark night. But don't let us despair. Let us look at the architecture, the structure, the meaning of this great global dark night, and let us align ourselves, heart, mind, soul, and body, with the evolutionary will of the divine to birth a wholly new human race out of the ashes of the old. And let us not just talk about having hope. Let us do the great, heroic, wild, beautiful work of becoming beings who radiate hope by our words, by our presence, by our actions. And let us find the divine courage to live lives of shameless, splendid compassion.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's the vision that underlies radical regeneration. And it's not a user-friendly vision because it's not a vision that flatters the ego, but it is a vision that is grounded in the deepest truth of mystical transformation. And that we need like oxygen now.
Don't
Ah,
don't we just need that? And we need that bigger vision, don't we?
yes,
Because
yes,
we will end up in being devastated, avoiding reality, being
yes.
hopeless, employ strategies to save ourselves from our feelings and all of this. If we don't,
Right. But you see, which devastation are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the devastation that is born out of denial? Are you going to choose the devastation that's born out of not being strong enough to face what's going on and continually struggling and resisting against something that will win anyway? Are you going to choose that kind of devastation, which leads to paralysis, exhaustion, hopelessness? Or are you going to be brave enough to say to the divine, kill me and rebirth me and make me at last what I was always destined to be in your heart mind, your loving servant and midwife warrior of the new? Which devastation are you going to choose? On which one you choose depends the whole of your life.
keep going because I have nothing to say. I'm just sitting here spellbound like everybody else. But I wanted to come on because which devastation do we choose? And as you say, if we choose the devastation of hopelessness, turning away, trying not to see what's really happening, we will die.
Yes.
More
That's
so than
that's it.
already.
You said it perfectly. See, if it is a great evolutionary transition, and I think we can all agree, whether you agree with what I'm saying or not, that this is a massive evolutionary transition, a wake up on an unspeakable level. If it is that, and we don't do everything we can to wake up, the very forces that we've unleashed through our ignorance and our hubris and our addiction to power will destroy us and destroy us soon, because we'll do nothing about the climate. We'll do nothing to protect democracy from the rise of fascism. We'll do nothing to heal the agony of the million species that are hanging on by a thread. We won't recognize the power of evil that has been unleashed through this addiction to the shadow, evil having an orgy on every level in our world, and we won't recognize the ways in which we collude with that evil through our passivity, through our apathy. And that is very dangerous for us, because if we're in this transition and don't recognize the terms of this transition and what we're going to have to struggle to transmute in ourselves, then our extinction is certain and inevitable.
That
If we do face it, if we do face it together, inspiring ourselves with all the great mystical wisdoms of the world, putting our love and our hope into real sacred guided action together, then there is a very extraordinary, holy, miraculous chance that what looks like the end will actually be the beginning of something we can hardly imagine now, but a beginning that has been forecast by the great evolutionary mystics through history, the beginning of a human race that consciously embodies the divine and works humbly with the divine with astounding new powers to recreate the whole of our life and the whole of the world. That's what's being offered to us. Either you die out because you don't want to go through the transformation, or you go through it with everybody else. You open and open and open, and you cry and you scream and you pray and you dedicate yourself and are reborn. Either you die out of refusal to go through this process, or you go through this dangerous, harrowing process and become someone who is able at last to turn up with the fullness of yourself and to make radiant mischief and good trouble in this wild world.
I love the radiant mischief and good trouble, but I'm coming to something a bit
I'm
more.
looking at all your faces. You all look so stunned. You know this. Don't come on. Don't make me the agonizing messenger. You know this. You all know this. Stop playing small.
Mm.
You've been selected. Unfortunately, you've chosen to be in this time of massive death and massive rebirth. So shiver a bit, but get with the program.
Andrew, I'm
Sorry, I
in,
get very excited about this. You can see, yeah.
what I wanted to come to in a way, and you have said part of it already, this the really acknowledging reality, really feel it in its
How
absolute.
can you not acknowledge reality at this moment? It takes unbelievable effort to deny that this is an apocalyptic situation. You really have to be blind, deaf, and dumb, which is a very boring way of living life.
Yeah, it is. But when come back to radical regeneration, may I? Because
Yes.
talking radical regeneration all the time, and this acknowledgement is absolutely the first step, isn't it? It is absolutely necessary to do that.
Yes.
But you point out 4 strategies, I think it was 4, we now should adopt. Could we talk a bit about that? And one
Can you
is
just
connect.
repeat what you said, darling? Because I'm whirling about in my head, and I'd love to be totally faithful to what you asked.
Okay, you said in radical regeneration that we need
Mhm.
to kind of employ 4 strategies, if I understood that rightly: reconnection, resistance, resilience, and regeneration. You want to talk?
Yes.
Would that feel right?
Well, yes, because obviously we need to reconnect to the divine, outside and inside, by whatever way we find most inspiring. We need to cultivate in ourselves a passion to resist the kinds of denial or the kinds of easy submission to dark forces that characterize a great deal of humanity at this moment. We need to find within us the forces to do that. We need, by cultivating our health, by doing serious spiritual practice, by turning up in our communities as authentic citizens and truly, truly risking really being a voice for truth, we need to cultivate resilience, resilience in the face of the extremity of the process that I've just described. And if we do those 3 things, if we really reconnect with all of the passion of our soul to the divine, inner and outer, if we truly find in ourselves the clarity to identify what we need to resist to be potential midwives of a new reality, if we really take seriously the training that we're going to need to stay resilient, because if you think that you're just going to sail through the dark night knowing that it's the birthing canal of a new reality, you are wrong, because the dark night will constantly threaten you with hopelessness, with despair, with rage, with, oh my God, I can't face any of these human beings anymore. I'm just going to swig from a vodka bottle on the Ipanema Beach for the rest of my life, all of the temptations that come, you don't train yourself to be strong enough to resist them, then you won't be able to meet them. But if you do, then you come to that extraordinary fourth possibility that you become a secret agent of the divine's passionate will to regenerate humanity from its roots, and through that regeneration to save nature from our cruelty, from our madness, and to make us conscious midwife warriors of a wholly new way of being and doing everything. And this new way isn't something I cooked up in the bath and proposing to you because I think I should offer you some hope. I see this birth happening fragmentarily everywhere, and so should you. Look at the Greta Thunberg in the Extinction Movement. Look at the extraordinary rise of passionate, powerful women claiming at last the feminine intelligence and the feminine knowledge and really stepping forward in leadership. Look at the rise of the tolerance of gay people and trans people with tremendous resistance, but still saying we cannot go on being homophobic and transphobic and denying dignity to whole groups of people. Look at the extraordinary rise in the passion for animal rights. Look at. Don't just look at the darkness. Train one eye to be an eye that is a birth eye, and that notes the appearance of this new world in the middle of the destruction of the old. And you'll realize, oh my God, these crazy evolutionary mystics like Sri Aurobindo and Moses de Leon and John Gebser and Bede Griffiths, the great, great pioneers, and even crazier mystics like Andrew Harvey, they're not lying. They are seeing something in a cosmic perspective, which we need to see, because when we do, it will give us fortitude and courage, and it will keep our hopes high in potentially very devastating circumstances.
Wonderful. Absolutely. This is what I was hoping for when I talk to each other.
Well, it's early Saturday, so it's the lion is unleashed this morning. I could have been softer, but I respect you all much too much to talk down to. You have enough teachers feeding you pabulum, and whatever you think of me, pabulum is not what I'm feeding you.
No, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. And I was just, while you were talking, thinking, yeah, and we have to kind of hold both. Now we are in a time where
Yes.
we hold
Yeah.
the reality of the absolute dark. And then on the other hand, we are holding what we see out there, being born. There's so much being created. We could just see it today, all the stuff which is created. And you forgot in your list the indigenous movement. They are coming out.
Yes. Oh God, there are many other aspects of it. The indigenous movement is incredibly important for the future of the planet.
Really good stuff being already put in place now.
Yes. Well, just think of something else. All of you are seekers, and you've been on this deep journey. I know you must be aware of this, but when you are aware of this, something in you will start to rejoice. We are the first generation in history to have available to us the complete mystical wisdom of all of the traditions. Also, and this is really important, and this has been at the center of a great deal of my work, and it's the center of a great deal of radical regeneration. We have available to us the sacred technology of all of the mystical traditions, the tremendous practices of Tibetan Buddhism, the visionary practices of Hinduism, the incredible practices of Sufism. And if we avail ourselves of this sacred technology simply and fervently, we will be able to birth ourselves or let ourselves be born through this death. So, on the one hand, the divine is cutting us down. And on the other hand, the divine is extending to us all the signs, inner and outer, that if we persist humbly in allowing ourselves to be transformed, we will be. So, one eye, unflinchingly clear about what's going on, one eye unflinchingly visionary and clear about what's being born in the middle of the madness. And if you can dance with the opposites in that way and develop through practice a consciousness that's spacious enough to hold that dance, then two things will happen to you. The first is that you'll be overwhelmed with awe at the majestic power of the divine that is doing something so extreme and so amazing. That's the first thing, and that's very important. The second thing, you also come to realize in a way that you may never have realized before that you are of the same substance as the divine. You are a drop of that great ocean of pulsing light that's creating everything, and that you don't need to be afraid, however terrible things seem, because there is a purpose, there is a meaning. Love has its radiant, unimaginably beautiful goal that it's working towards through all this. And when you are armed with that awe at the majesty of the divine doing the process, and armed too by this increasing amazement that you and me, with all our flaws and follies, are also being protected and loved and inspired by the divine with which we are one, then you can go forward through anything.
I would like to bring the audience in. Would that be all right for you now, Andrew?
Oh my God, absolutely. No, I'd love it. I would love it. And there have been some wonderful comments and expostulations on the yeah.
So if we bring Jonathan, can we bring everybody in for a moment and just have Andrew still with us? Andrew, where are you? I can't see you anymore.
I'm here.
Bang in the middle. Okay, let's put a few questions to you first, and then we can all. So there are.
But before the questions,
yeah.
Before the questions, can we all just do a small practice, a tender prayer practice that will really take us to a level? Don't just give me questions from your mind. You can question all of this, and that would be pointless. Let's try together and unite at the deepest part of ourselves, which is in our love for the world and our love for our fellow human beings and our love for animals. Let's try and reach that. And let's try and inspire ourselves with the highest ideal that we're capable of. And I was thinking, what prayer would I offer at this moment? And I thought of one of my favorite prayers, which comes from the Sufi tradition. The Sufi tradition is so astounding because the Sufi tradition is very fierce and very realistic, but also very exalted. And here is this prayer. So may I please just offer it to you all as a way through. Oh, beloved, give me a heart I can pour out in thanksgiving. Give me life so I can spend it working for the salvation of the world. Oh, beloved, give me a heart I can pour out in thanksgiving. Give me life so I can spend it working for the salvation of the world. And I love that he uses the word thanksgiving because it's such a clue for all of us. How do we stay grateful, stay aware of the splendor of life, bless everything in the middle of this madness? And how do we really find in ourselves the courage to say at the end of the prayer, give me life so I can spend it working for the salvation of the world? I think those two things are at the core of our survival and of our potential birth. So that's my offering. The text of the prayer, it comes from The Perfume of the Desert, which was a collection of Sufi mystics that I did years ago. And it's it's right at the end of the book, 164. And it's by a man called Sheikh Ansari, Ansari, one of the greatest of the Sufi mystics. Amazing man. 16th century. Wild. Mm.
Anything else? Put it in the chat. Andrew seems to have an eye on the chat, so I don't even.
Yes, I've got an eye. I'm looking at all of your beautiful faces, and I'd love to hear comments, what you feel, questions. It doesn't have to be questions. What exactly do you mean by the dark? No, that rubbish. Let's go deeper together. Help me. Speak to me. Don't be frozen by my passion. That's boring.
Okay, let's not be boring.
Oh God, don't be boring. In a time like this, being boring is really unnecessary, I think.
Please unmute yourself if you want to say something. We are changing the form.
Anything.
I just want to say that I just love your joy. I just love it. You make me smile. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the paradox of what I've been saying, isn't it? Because I've been saying terrifying things, but I hope I've been conveying the tremendous joy that I have knowing that the birth is possible. That's what the spiritual teacher is supposed to do. Like a great doctor can do that, can't they? I mean, I've had very severe diagnoses, but I've been lucky enough to have doctors who say, well, you've got this and it's very serious and you might die from it, but we're going to get through this together. We're going to do this, and this, and it won't be fun, a lot of it, but if you have your mind calm and your purpose focused, there's a very good chance you can get through. That's the tone that saves, isn't it? And the doctor himself or herself radiates the confidence that then you catch and that helps you heal. This is what the Dalai Lama is doing on a monumental global scale. Because the Dalai Lama, whom I've had the privilege of being with many times and whom I know and who's my beloved of my heart and a tremendous, well, he's an enlightened being. He constantly, I asked him last time I saw him in Australia 5 years ago, I said, can humanity get through? We're obviously insane. And he did his characteristic laugh, Oh, no surprise to him, right? Given what he's lived through. And he said, nobody knows. Nobody knows. We're going to have to see. And we're going to have to turn up and do the work. And then he said something unbelievable. He said, and let me try and get the words exactly right. Prepare for the worst, but work tirelessly for the best. Again, paradox. Prepare for the worst because as American, as somebody who lives in America, it's becoming clear to me that the Americans are mad enough to re-elect a psychopath. Right. So that's the worst. But if I just thought that I would go and swig from a vodka bottle on Ipanema Beach, that's my private fantasy of escape. But I'm not doing that. I'm working tirelessly with everything that I am for the very best, which is for me the birth of a new humanity. And that gives my life meaning. And I hope yours life meaning.
And this answers a lot of the questions which I have just looked. So how do we, for example, balance this with action? So we prepare for the worst and we give tirelessly, absolutely tirelessly, to actually contribute to the positive. And that's only
exactly. And selflessly too, because one of the things that I'm sure many of you are aware of, and is that I have given my entire life for the mystical regeneration of the planet. All my 40 books are my offerings to that. When I was younger, I thought that I would live to see the fruition. I would live to see the kingdom kingdom be built. That was my madness, but it was probably a necessary madness because it gave me a lot of energy to do all the work I had to do. Now I'm completely clear that I won't see the kingdom. I won't, like Moses, I'm looking at it, but I won't go down into it. It will come after I've gone, if it comes at all, and I believe it will. So we have to work tirelessly, offering the very best of ourselves and not expecting any reward. I don't expect people to get what I'm saying. They will get it eventually because Kali is on my side. Kali is on the side of the evolutionary mystics. But I am not going to stop. And that is the way we go forward, I believe. We go forward giving everything selflessly for the potential birth of a new humanity, realizing that we ourselves will probably not come to enjoy it, but also experiencing through our passion the great joy that comes to the lovers who are mad enough to do love's will in reality.
Beautiful. Or as they say, I plant the tree today, but I know I will never see it fully grown. And I'm still
right. And also what the prophet said, and it's so wonderful. You said, he said in the Quran, it says, at the end of the world, plant a tree.
Yeah.
That's paradox incarnate. At the end of one world, our world is doomed. It's not going to last. It can't last. It is a murderous, cruel world. It isn't doing us justice. It's going to go. But at the end of this world, we can be paralyzed and hopeless and not do anything, or we can plant the tree of our sacred activism and surrender the fruits of action to the divine.
Oh, Moira, you can come in, and then we need to start to close. We could have you for hours.
Oh, I mean, thank you, darling. Thank you.
I knew we could, but it is Moira, go for it.
Thank you. Yes, Andrew, I really agree with what you said, and I felt it for many years. And I very much like the way you have the simple image of one eye on what's really happening in the dark, for want of better expression, and one eye on this fierce, passionate hope and trust. And the thing I want to add, which I have found incredibly painful over years now, is that, you know, there is wonderful work being done in the area of sacred activism.
Amazing.
But let me finish, because I haven't got to my point yet.
Awesome.
But you know, I've tried to talk with people in many, many different ways about the sorts of things you're saying, and the process that we're going through. But the thing I feel the need to emphasize, which people find very hard to hear, is that the things we're up against are not just human ignorance and misunderstanding. They are deliberate. They are deliberately created by people, beings, not only humans, who know exactly what they're doing. And I feel until a person can really face that knowledge, and that there is an unfathomable degree of power ranged against us, then when we get through that fear, we begin to realize our own infinite power for creating beauty and love and the new world that you're talking about.
I can't possibly add to that. That is the most beautiful and necessary statement that you just made. I don't usually go that far because I've already gone so far, but I'm glad you did. We are confronting power of evil in the human shadow, and also in the divine itself, in this oneness that uses evil for its own mysterious alchemical ends. And this evil is capable of destroying this entire experiment. If we can't see that now, we're blind. And this evil is being sold in the marketplace of capitalist media. And now with AI, humanity will have unbelievable new opportunities to put this evil and the disinformation and the chaos that it wants into practice. All of that is true. And you do have to face it. But my belief is, and I'm sure you agree with this, Maura, and if you don't, please tell me, I advise people not to start to face that completely until they have truly, truly connected, at least tangentially, with the divine within, because you are only, in my experience, able to bear the vision that you've described, which is accurate, if you know also that there is an enormous power of light and truth within you. Otherwise, you'll be tempted to close down, to pretend that what you see isn't true. So there's a law in shadow work, which is really important in mystical shadow work, which goes like this. The higher you go up, the deeper you are brave enough to go down. The more you connect with the divine within, with its peace, with its beauty, with its joy, with its love, with its courage, the more you will know who you really are, and then can get into a bathyscape and go down into the unspeakable abysses of darkness and evil that are also part of you and the human experience without losing your mind. So what you have added to us is truly indispensable, but we need to approach it, I believe, with great reverence and great awe and great practical intensity of practice. Otherwise, we will be exploded by what we are being invited to understand. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes? It's very difficult, isn't it? Maura. We can't hear you, darling.
You need to unmute.
This is very difficult. This is not for sissies, and it's not for New Agers either. So don't be a sissy or a New Ager. No.
It is difficult, but it's also incredibly freeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? Please dive into that. Why is it so freeing?
It's freeing because I believe, you may disagree, that all I'm asking us to face is, can you, I can't see you anymore, Andrew, so I don't know if you're...
I'm there, like God,
okay,
don't worry.
Yeah.
Invisible but present. I'm here. I can see myself.
Okay, great. So, because I feel that the thing that I and you are asking people to face and asking ourselves to face is something we all know anyway. We know it in a deep, deep part of ourselves. We know it. And we then, if we aren't fully facing it and embracing it, we put so much of our energy into not facing it.
Exactly.
We become weakened and we become fearful. It's
not become stupid.
Yes, we become stupid. It's true. And it's not that I'm claiming that I don't feel fear, but I let my fear, I let it burn. I let it be there. I let it burn. And it's in a context of something much fuller and deeper, because I do believe we have the capacity to create the true version of ourselves, the seed
Yes.
written in us somewhere. And that is a
Yes.
glorious being. But
Yes.
while we live in fear, and especially when we live in the fear of fear, and let ourselves be drained by that, then we're just, as you say, we're just a vanishing temporary phenomenon.
Okay, I think
Absolutely beautiful.
beautiful.
Moira, I wish you come to everything I ever give. I'm going to pay you to come and ask and say exactly that. You put it so wonderfully. I hope everybody has really received that teaching. You couldn't have given it to us with more elegance and truth. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to meeting you in person because I know that we'd have a lot to talk about. Thank you, Moira.
Beautiful.
Please, someone jump. That it's very difficult to follow something like that, but this is not a competition.
No. And also, we are coming to the end. Dear gorgeous,
Oh,
we are. So we are overrunning, but the next person isn't there yet, so we can overrun a bit. So I mean, I just need to say a heartfelt thank you, which I guess everybody will echo. Shall we just give
don't be too sure.
big
You know, when you drop bombs, not everyone is happy. But I
Yeah.
hope that whoever's been listening, take what I'm saying and Moira's saying, we're all saying seriously, and meditate on it and see if it's real to you. Please read this book. We've spent 5 years, in fact, a whole lifetime writing this book, and it's come out at the moment when it can be truly useful. And there are hundreds of thousands of people who are really being helped by this book. So please, please avail yourself of it and argue with it. Take it into your heart. Practices, the maps will help you.
Can you spotlight us? Then we can show the book once more. Can you spotlight us once more? Because people can't see it. So here it is. It's called Radical Regeneration, Sacred Activism and the Renewal of the World. You can get it at Amazon. It's an amazing book. Now, I didn't read it all, I tell you, but every time
I'm shocked.
it's unbelievable. So, and also Andrew's website, I have put it into the chat beforehand. Go back into our schedule on our website. There is his website. There's also the Amazon link for the book. Get it. It's worth reading. If anything is worth reading, this is worth reading.
Thank you.
And it's not an easy read.
It's not, but it is a clear read because we worked without sleep for 5 years to get it as clear and bladed for you because we knew where we were going, and it's here now. And this is it's a midwife's book. If you want to midwife your birth in this apocalypse, this is everything that we know clearly presented to you with the practices, with the maps that will enable you to stay calm and spacious as this tumultuous process of birth through death continues. And it's going to get very much worse. So we're at the beginning of the major stage now. So be prepared, prepare yourselves. And that's what the book is going to, I hope, help you do.
Exactly. Okay, and we can't go any further. I'm still getting an interference. Andrew, what can we say? Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Well, what can I say but thank you? What a joy to be with all of you. Thank you for giving me your time when you could be playing video games or voting for sociopath or any of the other potential entertainments available in Kali Yuga. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your faces, your dignified, beautiful faces. And thank you for all that you are doing in the middle of your lives to stay sane, to stay looking for truth. I bless you, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Bless you, Crystal. Stay close, my darling. I love you. I love your spirit.
Love you too. We will stay close to you, Billy. You can't get rid of us anymore.
Oh, I don't want to be rid of you. No, now I found you. Let's stay close.